A guy hanging down outside a building with a rope, which looks like he is not going to make it. The chief hunter mockingly applauds his failed escape. Just then, the guy swings and breaks into a window. With hunters on his heels, he barely outruns them and slips into a faulty elevator, the doors slamming shut just in time. The lift stalls. He sees the chief hunter approaching, so without hesitation, the runner hurls a grenade at him. It's thrown back at him, but he reacts fast, redirecting it toward the ceiling. The explosion jolts the elevator. A guy named Richards begged his former boss to rehire him after being unfairly fired, but the boss refused. Outside the office, an advert for a cash prize game show catches his eye, but he shrugs it off and goes home. At home, his sick daughter's symptoms worsen, and since he's now jobless and desperate, he grabs the TV remote to check what the game show is about. Sheila, his wife, arrives from work and rushes to check on their daughter. He tells her about his boss refusing to rehire him, so after cheering him up, she gets ready for a second shift. Richards tries to convince her to rest, but she refuses, claiming that she needs to earn money to cover their daughter's hospital fees. Hearing this, he blurts out his plans to register for the game show, and even when his wife warns that most participants rarely come back alive, he still insists on joining the show because it is their only option to get fast money. That evening, Richards registers himself at the game show. Afterwards, he survives the gruesome training process and meets with the game master, Dan, who manipulates him into signing for the most deadly game in the show, the Running Man. Soon, he's lined up with other contestants while Bobby, the show presenter, explains the rules of the game to the audience and introduces some armed men as the game hunters. While the audience cheers uncontrollably, Bobby starts the game officially. Immediately after, Richards visits Molly, an old friend, to acquire a fake ID, special contact lenses, and other survival supplies. Afterwards, he finds out that Molly had planned to surprise him with a job, so he bows in regret, but Molly encourages him to focus on survival. The next day, Richards checks into a hotel room in New York and films an update video for the game viewers. By nightfall, as he receives his daily rewards, Molly is tortured into revealing Richards' fake identity. The following morning, he awakens from a nightmare, turns on the TV, and watches some fans murder a runner. Feeling paranoid, Richards leaves the hotel and travels down to Boston. In a motel, he walks in on the manager chasing a thief, but he doesn't give them much thought. Later, he notices a man across the street, but he plays it off. It suddenly clicks that the man looks like Frank, one of the hunters. When he checks to confirm, he discovers that the hunters have surrounded the motel. Richards attempts to flee, but the motel manager unintentionally shields him from Frank. Richards slips into the bathroom, only to remember that he left his bag in the room, so he grabs a metal and smashes the mirror to create a reflective tool. He uses the tool to check where the hunters are and throws them off about his location. The hunters take the bait, so he runs to the roof and lowers himself onto his room window. His break-in alerts the hunters, but while they surround the door to take him out, he grabs a grenade. The hunters rain bullets through the door, but he narrowly escapes through the window. Next, he gets stuck, and as the chief hunter applauds his failed escape, he throws himself into a random room. The hunters follow him, but he manages to outrun them and slip into a faulty elevator. When the elevator stalls, Richards hurls a grenade at the chief hunter. The chief hunter tosses it back, but Richards redirects it towards the ceiling, using the blast to force the elevator downward. He lands in a basement and mistakenly sets it on fire. While the fire spreads, he barricades the door only for the hunters to fire bullets through it. He manages to hide before getting hit, but amidst the crossfire, a bullet grazes a gas pipe. Following some rats, he escapes into a sewage ditch to escape before the building explodes. In the sewer, Richards pulls out his device to taunt the fans who doubted his survival. That night, Stacy, the motel thief, approaches him and offers to help despite Richards accusing him of snitching. Stacy introduces him to Bradley, his brother, who takes him to their house. After learning about Richards' sick daughter, Bradley relates it to his sick sister's struggles and promises to help him, for free. Later on, Bradley shows him clips of past runners. He then explains that slipping away from the hunters has made Richards a prime target, and his only chance of survival is hiding until the game ends. The next morning, Bobby releases a video of Richards confessing to being a psycho who enjoys children's suffering. This enrages Bradley's mother, who kicks Richards out. As the brothers sneak him away, hunters attack. Richards struggles to fend them off, but Bradley takes charge, running over some of the hunters and securing their escape. Soon after, Bradley provides Richards with the address of a friend who can offer a safer refuge. The following day, Richards disguises himself as a blind priest. The disguise works out great for the next few days until one night, when one guy recognizes him. At first, Richards tries to convince the guy that he's a blind priest, but when he realizes that the guy called the hunters on him, he tackles him.
You think you're the guy who stops me from seeing my daughter again?
He quickly drops off his daily tape and runs away, but the hunters chase after him. He takes a detour, and when they're about to catch him, he jumps over a fence. The hunters speed through the fence, firing at him, but he's able to dodge the bullets and jump into a moving truck. As Richards traces the address, he discovers another runner was murdered by 2 children, making him the last living runner. He finally finds Elton, Bradley's friend, and Elton ushers him into his house, where he sees his deaf mother, a fan of the show. Elton explains how the game ruined his family and offers to hide Richards in his father's bunker, encouraging him to become the one to turn the game against the game master. One afternoon, Elton calls the hunters on Richards and points out that his mother would have outed him anyway. Once they arrive, they rain bullets all over the house and surround it. Elton hides his mother and triggers his house traps to aid their escape. He then grabs a water gun, activates one of his house traps, and continues escaping while some hunters fall into another trap. He triggers a third trap and leads Richards into a tunnel. Inside, Frank stabs Elton and attacks Richards. As Frank holds him in a chokehold, Elton slices Frank's ankle, causing him to free his chokehold. They resume escaping, but through Frank's device, Dan promises them a successful escape if Richards agrees to finish off Frank. Richards refuses the offer and busts out of the tunnel with Elton in a rover. Soon, they realize that a helicopter is after them. Elton offers to stay behind and use some bombs to hold the hunters down, but while describing the way to the bunker, he gets shot. Richards realizes he's trapped between the helicopter and Frank, so he chooses to charge towards Frank and jump before the car explodes and consumes Frank. One afternoon, Richards breaks into a car and threatens Amelia, the car owner, to help him escape from the hunters chasing him. During their argument, a troop of hunters maneuvers them and forces Amelia to pull over. Just then, a camera shoots the hunters, leaving Amelia confused. Richards tells her that the game master is the villain, and then drops his gun to prove he never planned to hurt her. She grabs the gun and orders him to get away from her, but he points out that the game master wouldn't let her go after experiencing their manipulations. Coincidentally, the radio announces that Richards has taken a hostage, increasing the game rating. To keep the viewers hooked, the game master instructs the hunters to let them pass. Richards scares the gathering fans away by threatening to set off a bomb if the game master doesn't provide a plane to aid his escape. Evan, the chief hunter, reports to Dan, who approves the plane for Richards' escape. Richards explains his plans to Amelia. On the plane, a fight breaks out between Evan and Richards. Amelia acts convincingly to make Evans believe Richards truly has a bomb. Dan intervenes and reveals that Richards never had a bomb. This news triggers Evan's anger, so he aims his gun at Richards, but Dan orders him to back down before sending him away to cool off. Afterwards, Dan offers Richards a $5 million deal if he agrees to star in another show and murder the hunters on the plane. Richards refuses. So Dan reveals that the show would be a revenge plot to punish the hunters who murdered his family. But Dan backs up his claim. While Richards grieves over his loss, Dan threatens to murder him if he messes up the revenge plot. On TV, Bobby reveals that the hunters had murdered Richards' family, so a pilot in the plane grabs a gun, sensing that Richards is coming for them. Richards fires first, and uses him as a shield from the other pilots shooting at him. After taking out the pilots, he searches the plane for Evan. From his hiding place, Evan grabs Richards' foot and throws him to the ground. After that, he picks him up, slams him into the wall, and rams his head into the mirror. While Evan punches him, Richards grabs a camera, smashes it on his head, and punches him into the mirror. Evan grabs a glass and cuts him with it. While Richards folds in pain, Evan reveals he, too, was once a player who struck a similar deal with Dan. He aims his gun, but the plane tilts and throws him towards a window. Regardless, Evan returns to kneel on Richards' wound and brings out a knife threateningly. Richards pulls his parachute ripcord. The breeze vacuums the parachute towards a broken window, making it easy for Richards to finish Evan off.
Do it, tough guy! See if I switch. That's game!
Next, Richards sets Amelia up with a parachute before tuning in on the show to watch Bobby and Dan inform the viewers of his revenge plot. When it's his turn to give a speech, Richards exposes the game for the manipulated scam that it is, only for Dan to tell him his speech wasn't aired. Dan threatens to release an incriminating clip and send a missile to blow him up if he tries to move funny again. Richards refuses, so Dan releases the clip and sends the missile to blow up the plane. Bradley hacks into the game's network to expose the foul play of the game master and reveal that Richards survived the missile. Days later, a cashier informs Sheila that a man bought her a pair of children's socks. Sheila sees Richards and walks towards him, relieved that he's alive. Bobby notices the audience protesting against the show and decides to quit before things get ugly. Dan tries to threaten him against leaving, however, he walks away. After Bobby leaves, Dan tries to host the show himself, but the audience's anger boils over. The anger turns into a full-on riot, and amid the chaos, Richards emerges from the crowd, confronts Dan, and shoots him. Despite his near-death experiences, Richards manages to outsmart Dan and put an end to the game. Now that he has ended the game, do you think his daily rewards are claimable? Or did he just play hero for nothing? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Until next time, guys, peace out.